Well, it's just about that time of year again, and while we don't have E3 necessarily as one big hub for all the gaming news and reveals kind of in one week, we do have actually a bunch of events coming up that, while they're spread out, should give us the same number of announcements, at least I think, and we are getting more and more events that are being announced every single day, and I wanted to at least go over some of the things we know about here and really what to look forward to that you may not even be thinking of. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure you like it and subscribe if new here to the Spawn Wave Plus channel. Let's take a look, as Jeff Grubb did at least help us out a bit with a list here of some different events that are coming up in order, of course, with the Meta Quest Gaming Showcase happening this week. You might be thinking, well, it's Meta, it's VR and all of this stuff, who really cares? Well, they have actually had some pretty good events. I think last year's was decent, and we heard about San Andreas being in VR, Grand Theft Auto. That's one I'm really curious about, so I do think it's worth checking this out, because they could have announcements for games that could also eventually find their way to PlayStation VR 2, and sometimes it's fun to have one of those weird VR announcements that you wouldn't even think of, like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. We do have the Guerrilla Collective online showcase June 7th. Then we have Summer Games Fest showcase June 8th, and that's obviously one of the big events that a lot of people are looking forward to see what Jeff Keighley can bring together here. Apparently, it is going to be about 2 hours long, and that was in a recent news drop from Summer Games Fest, the event there. So a lot of possibilities, and it's not necessarily tied to any one platform that we could take some educated guesses for Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo. So interesting to see what kind of grab bag of announcements we have there. Then we have Days of the Devs later on that day on June 8th, Accessibility Summer Showcase, Tribeca Games Spotlight, Future of Play Direct, Wholesome Direct, the Future Games Show, OTK Games Expo, and then Xbox Games Showcase. That, of course, June 11th, the other really big event I think people are looking towards here, and it'll be interesting to see how Microsoft, I don't say responds, but presents here after what happened with Sony at their PlayStation Showcase, that I feel like underwhelmed for PlayStation fans who are looking for things other than CGI live service announcements. I've gone over the overall showcase in full in a different video that you can check out, so take a look at that if you're curious. PC Gaming Show, that's an event that can have good announcements, but I feel like a lot of people tend to overlook that one. But it's later on the same day as the Xbox Game Showcase, a couple hours later. Then we have Ubisoft Forward the next day, June 12th. This will be interesting to see what they present, because they've already told us that games like Prince of Persia Remake or Sans Time Remake went kind of back in the oven for a while. They basically rebooted the remake, so be a while before we see that, or even Splinter Cell, for example. So probably more information on their future with Assassin's Creed. And something I would like to see from Ubisoft here is a new Rainbow Six Siege-like game, not necessarily what they did with Extraction, but a new, more competitive PvP style for that. I just feel like Siege, while it's still fun, and I've been playing it actually quite a bit recently, I think it'd be nice to get a follow-up to that with them building on top of the destructible environments that you use kind of in that strategic manner. Then we have Dames for Games and RGG Summit Summer 2023, of course, where people will be looking for something like a Dragon 8 getting presented. Now, we also had Devolver Digital announced that they would be having their own Direct with the return of Volvi. That's June 8th, 3 p.m. Pacific. And Devolver Digital has actually been pretty good in terms of publishing and which games to pick out to release. And I think this is going to be a really interesting event, just what they come up with. And, of course, the overall presentation, where a lot of times they'll just roast the entire industry for whatever's going on at that time. But for me, picking one announcement I'd like to see is the Plucky Squire and the official release date being revealed here, because that game does look genuinely interesting with some of the things it's trying to do, and then, of course, the art style going from 2D to 3D. I also wanted to put Apple's event on your radar, and I know people may look at this and say, well, what do we have to pay attention to Apple for when it comes to gaming? Well, this is their Worldwide Developers Conference, and there is a lot of talk around them actually showing off hardware here, not just being all software-centric. And the piece of hardware that a lot of people are anticipating seeing is their VR AR headset. So virtual reality, augmented reality. And part of that will be about gaming. And really the big thing here is Apple taking that venture into virtual reality and augmented reality would work to put more of a spotlight on that entire sector that is still viewed as niche overall. And part of that's because it is really, and Apple making that push, while it's not necessarily going to be a headset that everyone's going to rush out and buy because the rumored price is upwards of $3,000. We'll see if that holds true because there are typically different tiers and like base models versus the fully decked out model with sells you $500 wheels or something. There's a lot of question marks around that aspect, but typically the hardware and the presentation should be pretty good, especially since they'll work off of their M-class processors, which are really, really impressive, especially on the gaming side when it comes to the power consumption versus what you get from it. So right now, the tease has been for No Man's Sky going to VR and maybe even being showcased here alongside of that headset, which wouldn't be shocking since they have been at a Worldwide Developer Conference, to my knowledge, in the past. But I'm curious what else they can get here when it comes to gaming. And sure, they'll probably talk about things like metaverse and like the social media side of things with the headset, but what can we get out of gaming that can work to push the VR sector even further? So while there's no E3, I think there's still a lot of stuff to look forward to here, and events are getting announced every single day. And while I'm not expecting it, Nintendo could technically announce their own event at any time, since we've seen them do it a couple of days before or anything. But if they were going to do a big time General Direct in that E3 time, you figure they would announce it maybe even a week before. But I'm thinking more or less Nintendo has some Twitter drops, we'll say, to kind of get them through the summer until they get to a larger September Direct that would set up 2024, which may include new hardware for them. But even without Nintendo, it looks like there's a lot of stuff to look forward to when it comes to presentations for the month of June. And let me know what you guys think about all of this, especially which event you're looking forward to the most. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.